On our Scott Wiley sequel, find out why CoreNet Global is closing their offices forever.
Too many people are having the wrong conversation. This is not a conversation about we need to talk about return to office. No, we don't. What we need to talk about is how we create places and spaces strategy that helps our people and our purpose come to life.
Hello and welcome to the Lease Alert, where we have conversations with the smartest, most interesting people at the intersection of real estate, leasing, and accounting. I'm your host, Matt Waters. Let's learn something together. When I get to CoreNet, it blows my mind how many people turn out for a summit. And it's generally a lot more, like multiples more, than turn out for an accounting summit, of a similar sized organization. And I think, as an accounting profession, and I talked about this a lot with George Botic. He was a recent guest. He's a board member on the PCAOB. George and I talked a lot about accountants and kind of getting out of our ledgers, right, so to speak, breaking free from the stereotypical green eye shade, pencil pushers. We do some interesting work in accounting. We work all the time with real estate too. But real estate professionals are way better, like brokers, right? Even corporate real estate professionals, they are way better at networking, talking about their work in an interesting way. The accountants work, in many cases, we're working on the same things. The accountants need to get better. We need to learn from the real estate profession about how to talk our work up a little bit. I think that's going to make a big difference in even continuing to fill up that pipeline that you talked about, going back all the way to high school. Let's talk about our jobs in an interesting way. Even high schoolers can get fired up about entering the accounting or the real estate profession.
A couple thoughts. Don't take it from me, take it from the Oracle.
Yeah.
Well, Warren Buffett has shared, listen, accounting is the language of business. And it's true. And regardless of the area of the business you may operate in, a foundational understanding of key accounting principles. That doesn't mean you have to be an accounting major if you want to be great, but accounting is the language of business. And if you're going to be in business, certainly if you want to lead a business, having a basic understanding of accounting is critical
Hmm.
for a variety of reasons. Finance is perceived as sexier, right? Right. But not everyone's going to work on Wall Street. Not everyone's going to work in PE. But accounting is really a critical underpinning that I would tell anybody who's going to have a role in business, they would serve themselves well to really be grounded in the fundamentals of accounting. In my experience, having worked with CPAs particularly, is that CPAs are really well positioned not only to be an advisor to business, but also often the lead in the business. Now, where I think there's real opportunity for the accountants and the corporate real estate professionals, particularly learn from each other. So I mean this the best way. My experience thus far, CPAs, particularly accountants, tend to be more humble. And so they don't like to talk about themselves. They like to help their clients and be behind the scenes. Well, those trusted advisors need to get more out front
Hmm.
and lead in those relationships because trust is not a behind the scenes conversation anymore. And people need to lead with integrity and lead with their ethical value proposition. One of the things I've observed 42 days in is what real estate professionals really do well is position the opportunity and position the business strategically. I
Hmm.
think that is whether that's training, whether that's they've learned it on the road, whether they've learned it from coaching, I think they do that really well. An area where I think there's opportunities for both to really align is how do we take that trusted advisor role and how do we take that, leading with the business strategically and marry that? I think there's some great opportunities in that space. One of the areas where CoreNet Global is thinking about how we do that, our L&D business, really, you've talked about the MCR program, our Masters of Corporate Real Estate. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to join, I think, 25 to 30 of our newest QPCR graduates. So these would be folks who are newer in their career to corporate real estate, but have already invested significantly in building their body of knowledge and earning that designation. And many of those conversations really led into the things they learned, the new exposure they had, kind of that career growth and trajectory. And it was just great to see how investing in oneself, investing in your development, or their company investing in that for them, really is creating that additive skill set that they're bringing to bear for their organizations, their companies, the clients they're working with, whether they're, on the occupier side, whether they're a service provider, but they're really in the space, really trying to drive that forward. And I think that creates some great opportunities.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That reminds me of one of my students in the MCR program. A lot of times now we teach this remotely, right? We have an online webinar version of the MCR classes.
Yeah.
But then several times a year, I get an opportunity to go speak live and teach a CoreNet class, which, if you get a chance to do that, I'm not saying to do that for every single one because online is so convenient. But when you get a chance to go in person, that adds so much. And then over dinner one night, I was talking with one of my students. Do you know that the MCR designation was the first designation or degree that she had received since high school? And she's an executive. She basically got a job at a corporation after high school, worked her way up, was so busy, and also raising a family. She never finished. She doesn't have a college diploma. She was so proud of the MCR designation. And, it was touching, right, frankly. And
Yeah.
that just really drove home to me the value of that designation and others. In many ways, inspired me start the Lease Accounting Institute. And we now offer this CGLA, Certified Global Lease Accountant designation, along with 16 hours of CPE credit. And this is really creating a rallying point, I would say, or a culture for lease accountants. I won't even try to repeat all the all the things that you've said so far today, Scott, that back that up. I mean, it's this, having the hub and then having people being the spokes is just so vital. And so I really encourage people, if you're interested in lease accounting, check out the CGLA designation. In real estate, look at the MCR, other designations available. If you're interested in accounting, go for it. Go get your CPA, right? It's provided the biggest leg up, I think, in my career. Having that CPA designation has just been so valuable. And all of these things, it doesn't have to be the traditional way anymore, right? There's not just one path. We're seeing a lot of interest in the CGLA, which obviously lease accounting oriented, right? A lot of interest in people coming from outside the accounting profession, from the real estate profession, lease administration, and picking up those skills in accounting. Then those people are shoring up the talent gap in the accounting profession right now. Just one of the ways that that's happening. And I think it's so important just to remember that get a specialty and then you can choose to stay in that specialty or you can expand on that specialty over time. But Scott, I love the way you pointed out that AI is only scary if you're not adapting to AI. AI is actually a big opportunity.
Yeah. So a couple thoughts here. So I'll leave with that one on AI. So earlier this year, I had an opportunity with you know someone I consider a executive mentor to me to participate in a pilot initiative to become AI certified in the association space, kind of my chosen industry.
Mhm.
I felt so strongly about it. We've now created an opportunity for every member of the CoreNet Global team to earn that certification. And I've made clear my expectation is that my entire staff will have done that by September 30th and given them incentive to do it by June 30th. In thinking about the chapters we work with and how they connect with all of our members around the world, we've even extended it to the administrators who work with those chapters who aren't even part of our staff. But I feel so strongly about how transformative it could become but you first need to get that base level of this is not as scary as we're making it out to be.
Mhm.
So that's one. I think this conversation really is touching on the broader topic, and that is this idea of L&D in the future. Learning to work has, in my opinion, over the past 5 years, really become working to learn. And what I mean by that is we have had, and this is not pandemic related, but the pandemic was an accelerant, right? we've seen a historic period of time where employers are investing in skills training. Major companies have announced initiatives to upskill their workers, or in some cases, prepare them for their next job. But think that through. That means those employers are thinking intentionally about their talent strategy and developing the talent they have to be able to meet those demands in the future. So they are doing what it takes to ensure they have the workforce they need, right? Versus we're going to lose it and we're going to have to keep fighting for new people. To me, that's part of a larger trend we're seeing, we can identify, where employers are becoming some of the most important brokers of education and training today.
Hmm.
Instead of just having to go to school so you can get a job, more people are getting a job so they can go to school because the employer makes that impossible. And who makes that impossible in many instances for those employers? Their industry and professional associations. We are
Hmm.
the largest providers of post-secondary education outside of the college and university system in the world. Associations do that, right? So you think about what that really means. If you think about we're in a tightening labor market, attracting and retaining talent is increasingly depending on the offering of skills as a benefit. So we've got a pace of technological change that's only continuing to accelerate. More and more employers are now thinking about this build versus buy approach, meaning we're going to build the talent pool versus go out to the market and simply buy it.
Hmm.
And they're really doubling down on training to help their people and help their bottom lines prepare for tomorrow's world of work. To me, it's an incredibly exciting and exhilarating time to be in this space because the opportunity is right in front of us. The question is, are we going to meet it? Or are we going to let it pass us by?
Hmm. Yes.
Too many people, and I'm going to get myself in trouble, so I'm going to do it anyway. Too many people are having the wrong conversation. This is not a conversation about we need to talk about return to office. No, we don't. What we need to talk about is how we create places and spaces strategy that helps our people and our purpose come to life. And whether that happens at a corporate headquarters on a predefined number of days, whether that can happen in other environments, has largely been decided. The data is there. How we create the strategy that's right for our individual business in our specific sector based on the work that needs to be completed and how it needs to be completed, that's worthy of conversation. But
Hmm.
simply continuing to have the conversation about 5 days a week, fully remote, we're missing the opportunity that the market and the talent demands. And our profession and our industry has the wherewithal, has the body of knowledge to demonstrate it.
Hmm.
The accounting side, the professional services side, they've already been working that way for decades.
Hmm.
Audit teams have already been on site at clients. Tax people are working all over the place. This doesn't matter. What matters is we have a strategy, we're monitoring our strategy, we're resourcing our strategy, and we're investing in developing our talent to execute that strategy. We're having the wrong conversation and we shouldn't fall trap to it.
Wow. Yeah. I could talk with you all day, Scott, about several of these topics, but let me just do one point about one thing you said, and then I'll ask you a final question. You mentioned that companies really need to shift their mindset. One of the ways they need to shift is regarding embracing technology, right?
Yeah.
The other is embracing training and the corporation's role as a provider of training and education. I get a lot of wisdom from my dad. And I was talking to him about corporate training, 30 years in charge of the training department at a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I said, Dad, some corporations are hesitant to train their employees because they're afraid that the employees will get this knowledge and experience or a designation, and then they'll use that to get a better job somewhere else. And, it sounds kind of logical, right? Like, why would I train these people if they're just going to use that to leave? And my dad, very succinctly, he said, well, what they don't realize is you don't have to worry about the people that you train who end up leaving. You need to worry about the people that you don't train that end up staying. I was like, okay, well, mic drop, Dad. But that's exactly right. We really need to embrace this role as corporations, as leaders to train our people, even if they come to us with less experience, maybe in the case of the accounting profession, right? We're easing the guidelines a little bit for the CPA. They're going to come to us with a little bit less college credit. And then it's our opportunity, our privilege, even then, to train them up in a specialty. And hey, we get to train them exactly the way we think they need to be trained in. It's actually a big opportunity.
Matt, put in perspective, Josh Person, who's done a lot of work, with Deloitte and others, and he was on his own. And I would encourage people to check out his site. The global corporate L&D industry, it's pretty significant.
Hmm.
And Josh estimates that companies are spending globally over $340 billion annually
Wow.
on employee training and development. So on average, that amounts to more than $1,500 per employee. 340 billion, 1,500 per employee. Companies are in the L&D business, whether they
Hmm.
know it or not.
Right.
CoreNet Global is an L&D business. Our role is to provide the talent development, the skills development, the competency training that the corporate real estate profession needs, not just today, but demands tomorrow. How we do that, how we collaborate, how we partner to bring that to the market, that's the opportunity. The worker of tomorrow, they're going to have different needs, they're going to have different expectations, and the employer of tomorrow has different needs and different expectations. How we find a way to marry that, that's the real opportunity we've all got to lean in.
Hmm. Absolutely. So I think we have time for one more. And I want to ask you this because I know you're in the midst of a shift in office strategy. Imagine that at CoreNet Global and the headquarters in Atlanta. So tell us what you're learning through that experience.
That was a fun one. I think my very first meeting after signing my employment contract was, "Oh, by the way, we're moving out of our office." And originally it was going to be at the end of your first week. Luckily, as these things go with inspections and all that, it got pushed back till after the end of my first 8 weeks. So today is day 1, as we're recording this, of CoreNet Global has left its offices in, downtown Atlanta for a period of weeks, months. I knock on wood, I don't wanna jinx it, and we're gonna move about 6, 7 blocks away. But what I want people to know is what I said to our team and what I said to our board. CoreNet Global has closed its offices for good. Sometime later this year, we will open our Workplace Experience Center. And from there, we are going to create powerful purpose for our team to come together, to innovate, to collaborate, to connect, to do what we can't do remotely and hybridly, to be intentional about that. And we're going to do that in that Workplace Experience Center because that's how we're going to elevate and create exceptional experiences for our members, for our stakeholder, for this global industry. And from that, we're going to be able to deliver more powerful strategic insights, develop bolder solutions to meet real world, future oriented challenges, and to really, I hope, create more exceptional experiences that really propel and accelerate the transformation happening in our industry, where we're going to be the global and leading voice of that. So, in closing our office for good, forever, it's about recognizing that the office environment we knew is an office environment of the past, and we're not going to try to recreate it. Will there be elements we try to bring forward? Sure. But the research is clear. We're the industry of that research. Oh, we're going to practice what we preach. We're going to create a workplace experience center. We're probably going to make some mistakes. We'll talk about them as we make them and learn from them. But I really view our role is to be that hub. Hey, here's what we tried and here's where we failed. You'll never guess how stupid as I was to think that was a good idea, but we did. Here's what we learned. So I'm really excited, a little bit scared, We've been talking with many of the industry leading companies in our space about trying to develop some, studios or showcases where we can actually show off, hey, we went with this element and why, and here's how that was great for some neurodiverse individuals, or here, this was great for the introvert, or this was great for the team. I'm excited. We'll see if the permitting stays on schedule. Probably won't. But if it doesn't and we need to rattle some cages, I know I've got some people at my disposal who know how to do that better than me.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting. I look forward to it opening. I'll hit you up for a tour
Absolutely.
sometime when it does open.
Yeah. It's going to be great. And yeah, I was surprised to learn, but pleasantly surprised that we're moving into a building that I knew to be in downtown Atlanta, the EY building. So I'm like, just as I try to get out, they're pulling me back in. Um,
Oh, yeah, there you go.
yeah, but
Another accounting connection, huh?
yeah,
I know that building. That's like right close to the aquarium
yeah,
and
great view.
Centennial Olympic Park. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's going to be cool.
As I've learned as a become an emerging Atlantan, I guess if that's what I'll call it, my views give me great access to the highway, so I can
Mhm.
tell when I wanna maybe leave or not leave, being
Yeah.
inside the perimeter of the traffic in Atlanta as well, that's a treat.
No kidding. Yeah. Well, Scott, it has been a pleasure talking with you today. I can go on and on. More than just about anybody else I've ever talked with, you have lived this intersection. You're in the midst of this intersection of real estate, leasing, and accounting. And so it's just been a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for listening to the Lease Alert. I'd be grateful if you would like and subscribe wherever you listen. Until next time, keep learning and leasing.